Do I think that there are performance-enhancing drugs in triathlon? Everyone who is trying to be a pro triathlete is basically putting their entire life towards this one goal. And we look at the two options. The one option is not doping. Ooh, cold! It's very cold! Morning, Trainiacs. So it has been a very interesting few days in the endurance sports world. I don't know if you heard or if you even follow main cycling, as opposed to non-main cycling. Traditional cycling, but Chris Froome, the previous, I think, 4-time winner of the Tour de France, just recently got popped for banned substances. He was found with, now this isn't a proven performance-enhancing drug, but it's a banned substance. It's salbutamol, which is like, I think, taken with an inhaler. But the thing about it is that if that is combined with 2 other inhalers, it's been proven in swimmers to reduce a second per 100 meters off their swim time. And at elite swimmers, that's massive. That's huge. Not so good, Chris Froome. A few weeks ago, I did a video on Lance Armstrong. Don't worry, there's cycling shorts underneath. Did a video on Lance Armstrong, and it is absolutely blowing up. The emotion that people have towards Lance one way or another, whether it's, well, give the guy a chance, you know, everyone was doping, or get him the hell out of my face for now and forever. One way or another, the topic of performance-enhancing drugs in sport, obviously, as we're seeing with the recent Netflix documentary Icarus that is also blowing up, and how we're finding that hundreds and hundreds of Russian athletes, and I don't think that other countries can be entirely different, it's clear that performance-enhancing drugs, banned substances in sports, is a big topic that we need to consider. And triathlon is not immune. So here's the question. Do I think that performance-enhancing drugs in triathlon is something that is a thing that we should be concerned about? Well, I'm gonna do a bike workout first and then we'll talk about it. 20-second bike montage now. Very good hour. Very sweaty. All right, do I think that there are performance-enhancing drugs in triathlon? Yes, but do I think that it's everywhere like it was in the Tour de France back in Lance's days, where he gets popped for PEDs and then all of a sudden they start looking at the rest of the field and you got to go down to 17th, 19th place to find somebody who has no traces of performance-enhancing drugs? No, I don't think that's where triathlon is. And I had somebody at Ironman when I was in Kona saying that they thought that Daniela Reef was on the juice. She's jacked and she is so dominant. Do I think that she's on the juice? Frankly, I don't know. I don't have an opinion strong enough one way or another about how prevalent it is in the sport. Now you contrast findings like this year, where earlier in the year, Beth Gerdes and Lauren Barnett got dinged, but had proof that it was likely from a tainted supplement that they were taking. Lisa Roberts, who's been on the podium at Challenge Roth, getting dinged, and Lucas something also getting popped for performance-enhancing drugs. It's clear that it's in the sport. But like I say, you contrast that with pro triathletes like Heather Wortell that are about as down to earth and humble and open about their training as can possibly be, saying that it's not as prevalent in the sport as a lot of people unfortunately think. However, I think that it would be naive to think that it's not in the sport for one reason. Just looking at kind of like a grid of risk, reward, and cost versus benefit, Everyone who is trying to be a pro triathlete is basically putting their entire life towards this one goal. And what ends up happening is unless you are a complete genetic freak that can just keep progressing indefinitely, you're gonna reach a plateau. And when you reach that plateau, it's gonna start getting in your head, can I do when I am trying to be the top 1% of 1% of 1% of the athletes in the world? And we look at the two options. The one option is not doping. The risk to it is that you are likely out of the sport. The reward to it, there's no financial reward, there's intrinsic reward, you feel good about yourself, but there is no external motivation giving you an incentive to not dope. On the other hand, you have the option of taking performance-enhancing drugs. The risk is potentially health and also potentially getting caught. But just by psychology, we know that those are potential risks, and inherently we can put them off to the side and not really think of them as an immediate risk because it's so far down the future. Humans aren't wired to actually accept those kind of risks. However, the reward is that you keep progressing and you could potentially be that top 1% of 1% of the best triathletes in the world. So the only real good option is performance-enhancing drugs. But that said, I think that because the rewards in triathlon aren't nearly as high as professional sports where you're getting multi-million dollar contracts, the reward of making a $20,000, $30,000 a year salary out of triathlon, it's not nearly as strong a motivator as being a professional football player, a professional basketball player, a Lance Armstrong on the tour. It's quite a bit smaller. So do I think that it's as ingrained in the culture of pro, or even, well, let's talk about amateurs are getting caught for doping in triathlon? I don't think that it's nearly as common as a lot of other sports for that reason, that the reward isn't as strong. There we go. We can sleep at night, I think, believing that a lot of our Ironman and triathlon heroes are Santa Claus, and they're real. I imagine that this is gonna get a bunch of new views because it goes outside of just triathlon. So if you are new here and you aren't yet subscribed, please hit the subscribe button below. If you are an existing Trainiac, thank you. And if you wanna check out that Lance Armstrong video, check it out right up there. Now I'm out for the day. I don't think, I get to run later today. All right, see you Trainiacs.